Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes, no players allowed live series Crafting Icewind Dale, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. We're playing characters Volravn, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed. This is not the right stream for you, but for the rest of you, welcome, assuming, of course, you're okay with me sneezing. There it was. Ooh, that was a mighty one. No, there will be spoilers. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. Watch all of our sessions and reviews here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Rogue Watson and join our official Discord server with invite link into the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net, and for streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. We are obviously still talking about the Caves of Hunger, where we will be here for undoubtedly several more sessions. I think we actually made pretty good progress on Monday. Man, I broke my I'm just about to do it again. I've got a what do you call the sliding keyboard thing that's attached under the desk as a little shelf thing, and I always rest. I have a bad habit of resting on my arm on it in like the thinker pose and things. And I freaking popped the screws out, so my wife went and got super glue. We're gonna try to fill it in and see if we can get it fixed. But boy, every time, and just resting my hand on my keyboard, as I'm doing all the time, is like leaning it down because it's only connected to like 3 sides of 4. And now I'm in that habit. Like every time I put my elbow down, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna like really rip this thing apart. So, yikes. Hopefully it stays together. But just me realize I've got a bad habit of doing that. Not be putting so much weight on that. Anyway, we've been making some good progress in this upper right corner of the dungeon, which is where my players are headed. And I think we've made some pretty good adjustments to these areas, kind of trying to make it more compelling while still realizing it's okay to just have some empty caves. But luckily, the empty cave problem could be fixed just by inserting some psychic hauntings everywhere, which is something I have enhanced through the use of a custom madness table, which we've already seen a little bit of, and I think the players would be excited to experience some more, of course. Hello, Refus, Nate, Lazy DM, good to see y'all. Actually, if I have the COVID boot, man, I haven't gotten that one since last spring. I'm really behind on that. I need to get it done. But I remember I always the site felt really sore after I get my shot for like a day, and then I would get really fatigued for like 24 hours afterwards. Almost as if it was like you were getting like it was like a sick cold. You're just like, oh, I'm just feel tired and run down. But that was like the only symptom, and then after that I was fine. So, but I remember it being a pain in the ass for sure. It always sucks. A lot of our modern medicine, the either cure or preventions are sometimes not as easy pill to swallow. I mean, it makes me think of poor Rochelle who can go through chemotherapy right now, where they literally just inject your body full of horrendous poison that wreaks havoc on you in order to get rid of a worse thing, which is just like, this is the best we can come up with. All right, that sucks. So H11, we've got the Cave of Shadows. I think we mentioned trying to ambush the party as soon as they have light that enters this area, and also possibly having Tekalele come in and fight during this encounter. There I go. I see I'm doing I have to move my elbow up here to my main desk, which is what I should be doing anyway. I don't know why I got in the habit of putting on my keyboard desk. It's a bad habit. But I think we can possibly have the vampire. I think as written, he's supposed to attack afterwards, but that doesn't seem very smart of him. Tekalele is hiding in area H12. Mention him in H12? It does not. Okay. The null vampire attacks the characters in its large hyena form once the shadows are dealt with. Okay, but then he's just going to get his ass kicked. So I think hopefully maybe towards the end of that fight or during that fight, he can attack. Also in the Discord, folks explained to me, because I was worried about Thimbleweed using the daylight spell, but that's apparently not actual sunlight. It's just like a better version of the light cantrip, which... I mean, it's a 3rd level spell. That seems dumb then, right? 60-foot radius sphere of light. I guess it does... It seems like the main point of this is just to counteract darkness. The sphere is bright light and sheds dim light for another 60 feet. I guess it still helps people that I don't know. I suppose it has its uses. It lasts for an hour, doesn't have concentration. But if it overlaps an area of the darkness created by a spell of third level or lower, the spell that created the darkness is dispelled. So it kind of dispels the darkness spell. Although, I guess Dispel Magic would also do that. It just wouldn't light things up as well. But apparently this does not count as sunlight. Now, what it would do is prevent like the shadows from using their bonus action hide. But again, I think just the light cantrip would prevent them from doing that as well, because the light cantrip also just shows light in a certain radius, as I recall. Which is why I kind of have to get their first attack off, and then I don't think I'll be able to play them very optimally because people can just literally use the light cantrip. 20-foot radius and dim light for additional 20 feet. Is that what I actually said on him? I might have done 40-20. Let's make sure he's at 20-20. I think it's Edmund who's glowing. I did that properly. Give him too much light. I did give him too much light. Alright, let's do 20. There we go. Slow your roll on that. But still, that's going to be... In fact, let's see. He's right here below the thing. I'm going to move him for a second. We're going to see what this looks like. Okay, so you can see where the bright light and the dim light end. By the way, Roll20 had a really fun feature where you can do doors and windows now, which is really awesome. And there's ways you can like lock them and unlock them. Basically, it seems like it's a way to make it so you don't have to sit there and like move the dynamic lighting manually to like create your door thing, which is really cool. But and I made this funny observation in the Discord server, but of course they added this when we're in the middle of a giant dungeon that has no doors or windows. So I haven't had a chance to actually play with it yet. This is literally a cave without a single freaking door there. So depending on where which he's usually in the back, that's my big advantage. I'm hoping he stays in the back. Because even in dim, I wonder if I can get that off on dim light. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. Well, in dim light or darkness. Okay, the shadow can take the hide action as a bonus action. The problem is they have no range attack, so I don't see how once they engage in combat, this becomes a thing you can do. Because they're just right next to you. I don't see if you can really hide, unless they're really fighting in like pitch darkness. That why would they take the hide action as a bonus action if they're already in melee? And if they're not in melee, then why would they do that? Because, well, I guess to answer my question, if they haven't yet, if it's their turn and they haven't yet started in melee, you could take the hide action as a bonus action, roll for it against presumably the players' passive perception, and that would be literally equal to a rogue trying to do it, because I believe if you attack from stealth you gain advantage, correct? That would be like me playing a rogue where I hide bonus action. If I can get that off, you know, if the stealth works against at least the target I'm trying to do, then maybe I would gain advantage on my attack as the shadow ambushes them. However, once it does that, it doesn't seem like it would be able to do that again because it's already right there next to you in melee. And it doesn't get like the disengage as a bonus action or anything either. So I'd have to like disengage in action and like move away. If I want to do that next turn, it just seems like a waste of their turns after that first turn. But that first turn, that's actually something it could do, assuming it's still in dim light, which it kind of depends on where Edmund is, because this is a big cavern. Maybe I can try to like keep track of which ones are in the dim light or not. I don't know. But it's a 30-foot cavern. This thing, the bright light goes 20 feet, I believe, and then it's dim. So technically, if they were all in the top 10 feet, then they would not be interposed with that. They have a 40-foot... Oh, that's weird. They don't have fly? Wait, shadows don't have... Is that right? Shadows don't fly? Oh, that's weird. I assume they were like ghosts flying around. Is that not the case? These things have to be on the ground? That is news to me. I just assumed these things were flying. I'm shocked by this. This is a revelation. Boy, Shadow ends up with a lot of creatures, doesn't he? Well, dark exaggerations of humanoid shadows. Okay, so they're more like... They're not ghostly, necessarily. They're like walking around as shadowed people. Okay, well that's different. Huh. Oh, they can squeeze through space. Yeah, so the sunlight thing's not going to bother them. Okay, well, so I guess they're not hiding up in the rafters like I thought they were. That's news to me. Yeah, I didn't realize they were not flying around. I was expecting like specters and, you know, just your typical flying around ghosty thing, but that's not actually what these are necessarily. I guess people don't normally fly, so they don't normally fly. Shadow Assassin, is that? Looks like an undead shadow that wields short swords also made of shadow. It exists only to slay the living. Just a powered version of a shadow show. Whoa, CR9. Alright, we jumped up there for a second. Building shadow blades that still do the strength. Wow, so that is like turned into a boss. Alright, that's probably not what I'm looking for here. That'd be more interesting than the Wraith, though, wouldn't it? To do like a higher powered shadow as the like mini boss version, but I think we're already changing how the Wraith thing works. Which I did still saddle the Wendigo fight with 2 Wraiths, but I think that's better than using a CR9. The minion, maybe? I don't know. That's an interesting idea, though. Players fight 2 of these, plus Ray turn into a Ravenous Wendigo. 2 Shadow Blade attacks, they do... not too much damage, although the necrotic damage... And unless they're immune to necrotic, target strength score is reduced by 1d4 each time it is hit by this attack, and it can do 2 attacks. That's pretty crazy, especially after just fighting the shadows. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's nifty. Probably too much, though. Alright, well that changes a bit of the context of this fight. So, they're on the ground, lurking about. So let's put them near the walls then. Maybe they're all like crept up against the walls. Let's actually spread them out more. That way, hopefully we have less chance of getting blasted by any AoEs as well. Just against the edges of the walls versus in the middle. Probably a better idea, right? Some of them could be, but I don't know. Maybe as somebody comes in a little bit for this. I need to launch the attack. So hopefully, again, Edmund's in the back. And then I'll just try to, I will try to run it legit, but try to see where that dim light is. And assuming the shadow's in the dim light, they will definitely try to do that stealth bonus action. In which case, their first attack should have, their only attack should have advantage at least. Which, you know what I should do is add a stealth roll, so I can just roll it versus having to do a custom one. So let's just go ahead and take their stealth. Give them a 6 for stealth. That way, because the only reason they're going to do this is if they've got the +6, yeah. And if we roll it, it would look like that. That'd be a great roll right there. Roll a 12, +6 would be an 18. I believe that would beat everybody's passive perception, because if they're the ones rolling against the PC passive perception, then their tie wins. Ooh, that'd be a good idea, Chapel. Try to shadow one of the PC's own shadows. Again, if they're not in that bright light, because they do have 1 light spell going off. That's what I'm trying to like work around, basically, and trying to be fair, I guess. Is currently Edmund has the light spell radiating off of him, but he has a 20-foot radius of light. And that will determine basically whether or not I can get a surprise round, essentially, because they would absolutely be trying to surprise them. We can assume they've got a DC 16, so already I believe Edmund and Valravn are not surprised default because they've got pretty good passive perceptions. And then Frey can, as a barbarian, can just choose to rage if she wants to avoid being surprised, which I think she usually does. Although with big dungeons, she also likes to hang on to those rages. Yeah, he's got a freaking 17. And I like taking the average on that, just as a general ambush for the shadows. But the point is, regardless of the surprise round, on their first turn, they will try to do their bonus action, whatever that is called, shadow stealth. Their bonus action hide, if they're in, as long as they're not in that bright light, and then they can get that. And they will actually roll for that against the, whatever their target's passive perception is for their stealth, and that will determine if they can get advantage on their attack when they go after them, as kind of a cool, like, they meld into the, I literally picture them, kind of like disappearing from view, and all of a sudden they just appear right next to you, do the Dementor Harry Potter thing and suck out your life force. Or I guess in this case, it's draining your strength. I guess I'm okay with keeping them all in the room, although I could have some others kind of around. I should probably do that. Why not? Why not? 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's put... Why not just spread them out a little bit? You can put 5... Actually, no, if we're clever, we'll put the later numbers. Players, I won't rotate my hand too much. We'll put 8 and 9 in here, maybe. We'll make this just like part of the room. That way, even if they all get blasted, I've got some kind of reinforcements I can plug in here. There we go. The one bummer is, of course, if Celeste gets that big Radiant Burst thing attack, which would be this would be like the best case scenario to use it on, because these things are vulnerable to Radiant damage, and they have low hit points in general, so they would just be absolutely demolished by her stuff. We'll see. I'm probably overthinking this whole combat encounter. The player's going to kick its ass no matter what, but I'm going to try to do its best. I mean, given their CR level, like, I could include, a Shadow Assassin in here or make things a little bit harder, but it gets tricky when you're doing a long dungeon, because you don't want to treat every single fight like this do or die encounter. You want to try to build up that war of attrition, and right now they've already short rested once after the Flame Skull fight, and I think as a DM you want to aim for the players feeling the need to short rest 2 to 3 times every adventuring day, and I think we're still relatively early in this dungeon, so I don't feel the need to step on the gas too hard with this particular fight. I think we're just going to keep it actually as written, which is 12 shadows, I think. Now, I did increase the number of Kobold Vampire spawn here in H17. We've upped it, I think we upped it to 6. And, oh yeah, I was going to mention Tekalili being in this fight. This will be another tricky one where I don't know if I really want to treat him as a formal combat encounter where I actually roll initiative, or I want to do what I did with the other event and just have him kind of appear and try to, fight somebody and then disappear or something. We'll kind of see how the fight's going. If the fight's already like, the Shadow's already getting their asses kicked and almost dead, then he might just come in and do that and then leave. If it's an actual, like, ongoing fight, though, I may have him stick around for a hot second, but I would like to not reveal what exactly he is or what's going on. Hopefully, until they reach the actual, at least, vampire spawn room, and I think that would be the appropriate room to have him actually stick around for a fight, and then hopefully again retreat for maybe an even another fight down in the proper layer, and maybe we can give him layer actions. Although I really like the idea. Somebody suggested maybe as a layer action, somebody like darkness coming out of him or something, to where maybe the players are forced to use, like the daylight spell. Just to try to counteract that darkness effect that he can do. Because I've already given him layer actions, which basically opens up his action economy a lot more and lets him use all of his abilities to the fullest extent of the law. The law of the DM. Squishing and moving into small holes. It's nice, but it's worthless in this particular dungeon because there are no doors, there are no barriers, it's just all open caves anyway. So, same thing with the fact that the Null Vampire can transform into the hyena. I don't know why the designers are like, yeah, and he attacks you in hyena form. Like, if I'm reading his stat block correctly, what you do when you transform into hyena form, you lose your claw attack, which means all you can do is bite, and which means you basically lose your multi-attack. All you can do is your bite attack, and the only thing you gain is you gain a 50-foot speed versus a 30-foot speed, which maybe in certain circumstances that's helpful, but in this case, where there's all these like caves and tunnels, like not out in the open, where having a big speed would help you. So it just seems like it's a terrible tactical decision to have him ever transform into hyena mode. Also, as written, it takes him his entire action to transform into different modes, which is just not going to work. Which I actually did give that a legendary action for him and just say, hey, he can do this as a legendary action, mainly to help him go into mist form to escape, not to go into hyena form, because I think that's just a straight debuff for him. So, if anything, I would treat his hyena form more like a werewolf type thing, but that's also what his hybrid form is. That's his null form, so I just don't see the point of it in combat, I suppose. I could see it if you're trying to escape and you need speed, I guess, to escape, then you could don't go hyena form. Yeah, otherwise it's been tricky trying to work around it, but I mainly upped his stats to that of a straight up vampire, but kept his unique abilities of his null vampire, which is Frightful Cackle and Sickening Gaze, and then added a bunch of legendary actions that aren't anything new, but just let him do his other abilities more, essentially. But I could give him layer actions in addition to that, because he is supposed to be kind of a little mini boss here. Let's return. I guess we're gonna use Edmund as our guinea pig here. We've got the shadow room here, and this part divulges where you can either go. Basically, if you go east from this room, you'll deal with the vampire threat. If you go south, you can actually skip the vampire threat entirely. I guess you have to pass through H16 as well, which does lead north back up to the east section. But I probably would have the vampire continue to harass the party. Although it would not go near this area, which is the bones, which I'm going to have. So when they enter the shadow area, we're going to have Frey start getting, like, not necessarily mechanical things, but just like RP notes about, like, hey, you feel like the same sensation you feel when you transform into a Wendigo, like this, you know, hunger or anger or whatever sensation you feel is happening a little bit, but it's not like full on happening. It's just like trickling as you enter this area. And then as she's fighting it, or after she's done with fighting it, then that feeling is pulling her towards the south. It's like hunger. And we'll see how she reacts to that. And as she goes down there, she'll be feeling that more and more. And then finally, once they enter this room, I'll probably cue a little scene, maybe do the classic, like, which is a good storytelling device, is that you get flashes of like what happened in the past. This is used really effectively in a lot of horror adventures or campaigns where you might see things happening. I think a lot of horror movies do this too. I'm thinking like House on Haunted Hill did this, where you witness things that happened in the past that kind of led up to the horrible tragedy that created the undead creatures or spirits or malevolence or whatever. And in this case, it'll be the cannibalism that occurred between the survivors. They'll be getting like bits and pieces of that. In fact, I could even start doing that in this room. I could. Ooh, that's not a bad idea. And that might actually lead me to be able to ambush the players if they enter this thing and I treat it like a psychic haunting, but it's actually them seeing the events of what played out. Yeah, I could do this in like 3 different steps. I could do it here in H11, then I could do it in H15, and again, the finale of it here in, I guess it's still H15, isn't it? This is all one room. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I could actually tease the first of it here in H11, the whole cannibalism thing, and then that would especially start affecting Frey, and then they would be led down here. I'm just constantly scrolling up and down to realize that. And then get more and more of that flavoring, and then finally at the end, and I'm thinking I wouldn't even have Frey make the save because I really wanted to transform. Although it feels a little disingenuous to force the player into doing that, but I think in this case the player is going to like that. If she was like against it and trying to fight it, then I would probably have this be a moment where she can maybe reconcile and deal with it, but instead it's the opposite. I think she actually secretly enjoys going like Nova and having this like uncontrollable berserker rage demon creature unleash within her. And this would be a case where that happens. He transforms, and in addition to that, I'm gonna have these 2 wraiths like come out of the walls or something, just as, you know, minions to attack the party. So that will be a huge balance fight because I take out one party member and replace it with an enemy. Now, normally the players have done just fine against this. Surprisingly, although they've only fought the Ravenous Wendigo once, and they actually don't think ever had to actually fight her. It was mostly, they had all the Kruthiks. It was during the Kruthik encounter. So I don't think it would actually, well, I just don't know what that's going to work if they don't have, you know, a bunch of enemies around they can direct her to. And I'll try to position the Wraiths carefully where they're not, you know, anywhere near her, so they can all get this battle on together. And that will be a way for her to put to rest at least these creatures, but she would still, as far as I'm aware, she's still saddled with the curse, and she hasn't expressed any interest on how to free herself of that. She's just a functioning Wendigo cursed creature. A highly functioning one at that. Interestingly, this is not dynamically blocked off, this area here. So when the players enter down here, you can actually fully see, although he doesn't have the vision for it, does he? No. But I will describe that you can actually, this is like thin blocks of ice maybe here. And then if you get close, and the fun thing is they can just do drill bot, they can do melting, whatever they want. They can see a body here, or maybe I should do 2 bodies. I'm going to do 2 wraiths. I don't know. But it would be like the last survivor of all of this mess, and that would have some treasure on it, which I think, as written, the treasure is actually pretty solid. It is so I'm replacing the, as written, there's a wraith in here that talks to you, and it's kind of a little mini boss fight. And I'm replacing all of that with having it be a more character focused thing on the cannibalism, because that is what this room is all about, and I think it just obviously fits one of our characters so well. They got a mantle of spell resistance and a staff of charming, both of which are pretty solid items. So I may keep as is. I wasn't planning on giving the party really a lot more of attunement items before they reach Ithrin at this point, but you know, I think this is worth it, and it's kind of a cool character moment to deal with that. It would kind of make sense to give Frey the reward because she's the one who had gone through it, and yet she's not the one having to defeat her. And also, if anybody's gotten a lot of cool, like, character-specific magic items, it's her. So I don't feel like they need to give her anymore at this point. She got the axe from way back when that's been upgradable, and then she recently got the freaking belt of Frost Giant Strength from another, like, character-focused moment. So I don't think I need to give her any more of that, basically. Mantle of Spell Resistance, very, very powerful. Kind of boring, but powerful. Advantage on saving throws against spells. Does require attunement. And then the Staff of Charming, which requires attunement. And unfortunately, I could get rid of the class requirement, because right now only the Bard would be able to wield it. But I like the fact that he can... It doesn't seem like he would necessarily wield a staff, either. It doesn't seem to fit his character very well. Maybe he's like a walking stick or something. I don't know if he would really use... I guess he could use the... Interestingly enough, it does kind of fit his character to use these spells, and obviously being able to use them from charges and not from his own spell slots would be hugely beneficial. I really like the reaction ability, though. If you succeed on a save against an enchantment spell that targets only you, you can use your reaction to spend a charge and turn the spell back on its caster, which seems pretty dang cool. If I would try to target him with a single enchantment spell, I guess. So I may keep it on there just because I think the Bard would be the one that would want to use that kind of stuff. There you go. I'll keep those 2 items. I guess you could replace the Wraith with some, like, one of the, like either a Dread Wraith. In other words, replace the 2 Wraiths with either a Dread Wraith or a... What was the thing I just saw? The Shadow Assassin. Or even use whatever other undead creatures I want to use that could fit here. I think this thing is... The other one has the life drain, which is pretty nasty. Disappointingly, it uses the exact same token. That's kind of dumb. But it would just be a more powerful version. But at the same time, they have to deal with... What's that, sweetie? Pouch? Okay. Alright, give me 1 second. Let me get a yogurt pouch for the little one. I'll be back in a minute. He's got her strength to 30. My goodness. So swole. So swole. What do we think about the balance of this fight? And given that... So the only reason I would change is because, as written, the body in here is what has the treasure, and it was basically like, you know, killed all the others, was the last survivor of the big cannibalism culling, I guess, and got all their treasures, and all of that is placed in here, and then I don't know why it's been frozen since then. I forget the context of that. 3 walls of ice. Let's see. Oh, the Wraith does retreat into the ice, passing through the interposing walls of ice to reach it. That's weird. Seems like that's a detriment for it, given all the players have, I'm sure, spells and things that could hit it. Because it can't do anything if it passes through the ice, it just kind of sits there. She could always get a better belt, yeah. And the only reason I doubled the number of races is just because, again, where the party's level at, it seems like they need multiple creatures to deal with in addition to the Wraith Ravenous Wendigo. And these would just be like kind of more powerful versions of the Shadows, maybe. Although they don't have multi-attack, they still only attack once, which is the life drain. They just have more life. But they do the hit point reduction, which is a bitch and a half. There's also a Dread Wraith that you can use. I don't think we've actually fought Wraith yet, though. Or a Ravnica creature. We are 9. Wow. Just each creature within 60 feet must succeed on DC deck save or take 68 necrotic damage. Fun. Well, this includes Frighten. That's kind of nice. Wow, 3 attacks. Okay. What'd be interesting is here I could flavor this like, hey, this is a boss fight that was going to happen, but because you also have a Wendigo cursed person, they're also going to transform to Wendigo at this moment. Maybe instead of 2 Wraiths, I do treat it like another like mini boss fight. With one of these kind of another basically undead type. Oh, this is actually an aberration. That's weird. Not undead. I could flavor it as undead. Do some custom thing. Shadow Spirit from... There's a lot of shadow creatures. That's a monstrosity. Shadow of Death from Tomb of Beasts 2. Tome. I realize I screwed that up every single time. Tome of Beasts. Somebody on the YouTube actually commented like, dude, it's pronounced Tome. I was like, yeah, I deserve that. I mispronounce that every single time. I ran Tomb of Annihilation for 2 years. Like, it's just, I'm never going to do that correctly. But I think in the back of my head, I do realize it should be Tome Beasts. Tomb of Beasts. Although, in my defense, Tomb of Beasts also makes perfect sense. You could have a Tomb of Beasts. Half the things in D&D are Tombs of Beasts. $22. What is? Oh, it's a CR 21. Okay, 150 hit points. Ah, that's probably too much. 168 necron. Yeah, that's too much. Revenant maybe. I was thinking more ghostly. I need something ghostly. Unfortunately, I don't think. I wonder if I can filter. Can I filter by traits? Can I filter and just give me incorporeal? Great word. Because that's what I'm looking for. It should be ghostly in some way. And by ghostly, I mean it can pass through other creatures and objects. Though weirdly, this Shadow Horror also does not fly. It just has a fast speed. Alright. Let's see if I can filter. Vector's way too weak. So they just did the minion one. I'm looking for kind of the boss. Or it's either that or go halfway, which is what I was going to do initially. Which was to have like just 2 Wraiths instead of 1. Don't think I can filter. Overshadow's cool. That's actually from Tome of Beasts. The first or maybe the second one, I think. There's a whole dungeon about the Overshadow. Yeah, I can search. I can filter by alignment, speed, source, type, size, CR, and language. I can't filter by type. That's a bummer. What I can do is go to that ever useful website, and I think I can filter it with that. But I don't think that website includes any of the Cobalt Press stuff either, so. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's gonna be a bummer to try to filter through this. Well, I guess filtering by undead would be a start, wouldn't it? Definitely gonna be undead. Apply that filter. Okay, here we go. Now we're only looking at however many this is. Banshee's a ghost. Kodaks are creepy, but not ghosts, I don't believe. I guess you could always do a bone thing under the bone pile, but no, I want to stick to my ghost thing. Bone Shard Wraith. Don't remember you. You're not incorporeal. You are incorporeal. Okay. CR 12. Yikes. You do fly. A ghostly horror, haphazardly assembled from mismatched bones and grave-scavenged shards. Shattered eye sockets burn with the black icy glow of eternal madness and the spiteful hunger of the void. Okay. It's got an ability called Bone Shard Cyclone. That's so fucking cool sounding. Here's a creature can see within 60 feet. Must make a DC 16 Strength save. Creature takes 20 slashing, or 3d12 slashing damage and 68 necrotic damage, and is enveloped in a whirlwind of sharp bone fragments for a minute or until the wraith dies. So it's like a cloud of daggers. While enveloped, a creature is blinded and deafened and takes 48 necrotic damage at the start of each of its turns. Can they move out of it, or do they just make the save? You can repeat the save at the end of each of its turn. I guess it's not cloud of daggers. Creature dies while enveloped. It rises as Bone Shard Wraith in the next moon. And that, kids, is how new Bone Shard Wraiths are made. Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the website. Filter by... Has a, like, one of the best filters I've ever seen on anything. So we'll move by undead. Is it the tag I'm looking at? But the bad thing is I don't think that website has stuff from Cobalt Press. I think it's only it's only official 5e stuff. Heat alignment, skill, damage, addition. Can you can't actually filter by that. There it is. Incorporeal movement. Okay. See what it gives me. Wow, there's a lot. Eidolon. Like a statue thing? Yeah. Cloud Giant Ghost. Haint. That was the, yeah, from Radiant Citadel. Okay. Lantimir's Ghost is on there. That's funny. Gallows Speaker. Van Richten's. Kind of interesting. And then Wraith is just CR5. Alep could be maybe a more interesting one than the Wraith. I wish the Wraith had multi-attack. Yeah, that's the website we all use, I think, still.
There's never been a better time to get away.
With Roll20 is nice. I just wish I had more filters.
It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Hurry in to get our best deals of the season during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event.
Everything. I'm running this Bone Shard Wraith, but it's probably too strong. CR12. During the party, they're gonna lose. That's right, I could just make my own. Yeah, when in doubt. You know, I had to do that a lot, I've noticed, with tier 3. I've had to make my own freaking creatures. Or more likely, modify my own creatures. There is a Deathlock. I think that's what I was using as minions before, wasn't it? With dudes popping out. Yeah, CR3. Maybe more of a minion thing. I just can't. I guess I can't decide if I want a boss type creature here, because I think that's what it's designed for. They put a Wraith here normally for level, which is CR5 for level 8 PCs, I believe. If I've got level 12 PCs, I feel like you can use something that's CR, 8 or 9. But I'm also gonna transform Frey into her Wendigo form, which is kind of a boss fight in of itself. Bone thing. No, I want a ghost. I want a ghost. That's true. I can just make anything can be undead, like that shadow creature. Searching shadow was actually pretty helpful for being able to find something. It was a gallows speaker I saw. That's actually a great way to just modify creatures. Just take a creature, but modify, like describe it differently, use maybe a different token. Change a type or one or two things, but keep the stat block the same as something that already exists. Because, I mean, you've got, at this point in 5e's life cycle, you have so many stat blocks available. You can pretty much get whatever you need. You just might have to tweak it slightly. Or like somebody was saying, just give the race multi, just buff them the simplest way possible. This is a really neat ability. This is a gallows speaker. This is from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Has a Suffering Echoes. The gallows speaker targets a creature can see within 30 feet. The target must make a DC 15 Wiz save. On a failed save, the target takes 3d12 psychic damage. Waves of painful memories leap from the target up to 3 other creatures that are within 30 feet of the target, each of which takes 3d8 psychic damage. The weird thing is only the first person makes the save. If they make the save, I think nothing happens. If they fail, though, suddenly you get 4 people taking psychic damage. That's a pretty big save. Otherwise, it has a +7 to hit, 2d10 plus 4 psychic damage. The target must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled from the next attack roll or saving throw. It like temporarily banes them. The CR6 with 85 hit points, but it doesn't have any kind of multi-attack. It just does its one thing. That's... I mean, I could turn the Shadow Horror into a creature. Probably not the Bone Shard Wraith. There's also like the Dread Wraith, and there was the Shadow Assassin, which is just a shadow with swords that drain you and more powerful shadow. Probably not going to go with the Shadow Assassin then. Should look at the Dread Wraith. Yeah, that's true. Because they did that with like here's a way to zombify creatures, and it was like you reduce its AC and you give it, poison immunity and lower its. I think you lower its. Maybe you actually raise its hit points. I forget. Incarnate Gloom. Wasn't we gonna look up Overshadow? Overshadow would probably be a better replacement for all these shadows though, because it's like, yeah, it's a bunch of undead glommed together. Doom of the Shadowless. Spawned by Tragedy. Fueled by Fear. Doom of the Shadowless. I don't know why these are actual. It does have some things in there. The Resurrection spell does not cast a shadow until the shadow is destroyed. And it just has the Strength Drain, which is the same thing. But it makes 2 attacks. You know, I haven't used Cold Light Walkers as much as I should have, for sure. I think they've faced Cold Light Walkers only 2 or 3 times previously. Once they just got the jump on one walker, I think, and destroyed it pretty easily. I think I've described them before, but they haven't actually fought them. And there was another time where they did fight them right after a battle. Like they fought some, or no, they were fighting what was it? Some aerial creature, Barytons, I think, something. And then during the fight, there was corpses nearby. Those rose as Cold Light Walkers, but they were able to actually take those out pretty quick too. So, fortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to really use them in their best advantage, which is at range, I think. I've also kind of established that they get created because they, well, I mean, I guess I could use them in here for sure. Through death from exposure, and they're probably like tied to the Frostmaiden in some way. But I could include Cold Light Walkers somewhere in here. I don't think as written they're included in this dungeon though. I feel like the Overshadow would work best if you were replacing the shadows in that room. But that would not be very good because there would just be one thing that does 2 attacks. Although 90 hit points is pretty good. And I don't think I can do it again because that already represents... It's an interesting idea. Plus, it's something different rather than facing a bunch of shadows. But I don't know if my players have actually fought shadows legitimately either, so... Red Wraith not showing up here. I'm probably under Wraith, Dread.
There's never been a better time to get away. With a great deal on the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Hurry in to get our best deals of the season during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event.
I guess you could. Well, the thing is, the Overshadow would replace the first room. I'm really looking at what to do with the Bone Room that I plan on transforming Frey into a Revenant. I'm just looking to have something else in there because just her by herself, it's going to be a cool moment, but if the players were lower level, I might let that happen. But with CR12, or with the players level 12, I got to throw something in there for the players to have to deal with that's not just her as a Wendigo. Got incorporate, so it's got the movement. This one just has the presence of drain, which is really cool. CR9. So it still has the life drain, it's just more powerful, but when a creature starts its turn within 10 feet of the Wraith, it must succeed a DC 15 con save. Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's because I had 5e tools open. Is that, are you guys hearing any of that? My bad. I didn't think it played audio, but that might be part of the problem. Yeah, I'm so sorry. It might be me. I guess it is me if you guys are hearing it. I didn't think I don't have my headphones on, so I wouldn't be hearing it. That's totally my bad. I'm so sorry. I'm sitting here just hopefully it doesn't get like freaking blocked on YouTube now. I'm just sitting here playing like random ass freaking ads. A dumbass. Probably why I don't usually pull up that website when I'm streaming. I'm so sorry. Draining Presence. First from within 10 feet of the Wraith must succeed a DC 15 con save or take 2d10 necrotic damage if its hit point. So it automatically does this just by starting your turn within 10 feet, which is pretty gnarly. You start your turn within 10 feet, you have to succeed a DC 15 con save, or it instantly does its 2d10 necrotic damage and your hit points are reduced. So you finish a long rest. That's pretty crazy. instantly puts a target on its back. Why don't I just replace those 2 Wraiths with 1 Dread Wraith? Now the bummer is, it's 1 creature with 1. It doesn't have the multi-drain. It doesn't have the life drain, but I think you're getting a lot of value out of this auto, especially if I do a bullshit thing where because it can move through walls, it like just materializes out of a wall, and then so it's like starts basically right next to them. That might actually work pretty well. It does have some cool features that it would not be able to use though, which is create Spectre, which is somebody who's died within a minute. It can raise them as a Spectre, and then it can absorb that Spectre and does this really cool, like, creates this damaging thing between as a line. It's a very cool ability, but it doesn't work unless you've got other Wraiths or Spectres around, so it wouldn't be as powerful as it could possibly be, but mainly just a more powerful version of a Wraith. And then it would help make sense why there's only the 1 body there. So why don't we do that? Does look different. Okay, we'll use the Dread Wraith. Ooh, it's humongoid too. I didn't realize that. We'll just keep these Wraiths over here. That was so large and in charge. C not showing up. DC of 14. That's weird. It says NPC AC, but it's not showing up. Yeah, all that's in there correctly. Okay. Tell you it's a 14. All the hit points, and they're even larger. So yeah, we can have this thing. Basically, when this event happens, we'll have this creature just kind of materialize out of the wall as this humongous Wraith monster, and be like, basically like this was the survivor creature. It became super powerful by absorbing all their knowledge and things, but they also have to contend with Frey turning into a Wendigo at the same time. I think that'll be a more satisfying end to that little jaunt. But then at the same time, they've got, and then Tekalele would not fuck with them down there. And then in H12, I think I was gonna maybe do a Psychic Haunting, just as they feel creepy stuff happening. H13 is all kinds of dynamic lighting. I'm gonna have like a basically a bunch of, there's stalagmites coming out of the ground, and then hanging from the ceiling is a bunch of kind of those like alarm, like a homemade wind chime almost, made out of icicles and like bones and stuff. And the idea being the players have to like navigate through that, or else they risk alerting all of the vampire spawn in the next room over, which I put them on the GM layer because they're all like clutched to the walls and kind of hiding around the area because they all have the spider climb ability, I believe. All right, well, I'm going to give them the spider climb ability. I maybe have deleted that off of them. I don't remember. But they're all going to be able to roll around and climb up walls and do all that creepy stuff. And these are all pretty tall caverns. So they're not going to be instantly visible on the Roll20 map by just glancing down there. H14, I couldn't really figure out what to do in there. It says there's a bunch of statues that act as turrets, I guess. It's kind of the same thing I did with 13, I guess. If for some reason somebody smashes a statue, that alerts the vampire spawn. I don't know why the players would feel the need to do that. I could set them up as maybe a trap where the statues like explode if people come near them for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe that could happen. Or maybe turn that into another Psychic Haunting. Basically, looking at all these statues creeps you out. I could do that as well. And then there'll be a fight with the vampire spawn. Tekalele would definitely join that fight as a legit threat. Maybe after the first round, it would appear and again do its thing, but maybe stick around for longer combat. And then if players, and then it would retreat once it's reduced down to here, and the players can choose to deal with him again. But weirdly, as written, there's no treasures down here to gain as the vampire, so I might have to manufacture some kind of good reward for having to deal with the vampire, other than like, hey, now you don't have to deal with the vampire anymore, which I guess would be kind of its reward on its own, but it also feels just a little not satisfying from a D&D point of view, because I'm giving them rewards for doing the Dread Wraith event down there, and yet there's nothing for the vampire threat, which is technically the worst threat because it's coming after you as a patrolling enemy. Well, I just did that, Zetra, with the room before that, which is a bunch of stalagmites, and they have to kind of carefully make their way through these alarms by rolling, either stealth or maybe acrobatics or something. I don't know if repeating the same thing in the room feels a little odd. I may have that room just be empty, or maybe it be a psychic haunting. It doesn't necessarily have to have anything horrible in it. 16 is supposed to have a psychic haunting, but I think I may just make that room empty, unless they completely skip 12, in which case I will make that one have a psychic haunting. And then I am completely cutting off the upper right room because it's full of a bunch of snow golems, and it's just a large, empty room full of just a fight. And I've already established the snow golems are minions of the Frostmaiden and do not see any reason to have them in here. The way my campaign story is written, she's kind of wanting them to go through here, and she doesn't control any of the monsters in here, so that wouldn't make any sense. And I think that will get us all the way to, which there's a possibility they don't fuck with the vampires at all. There's an entirely possibility they do that. I'm going to try to fuck with them here in the shadow fight and have him retreat again, so maybe that would motivate them to going after the vampire. But technically, oh yeah, I will look up the glasswork golems, thank you. In fact, I will pull it up right here. But technically, they could skip that and continue their way south. What did I say? Glassworm. In fact, I think Commonwealth Press had a similar kind of glass type golem creature. VR2, false appearance, regeneration, dazzling light. Got a glass sword. You know what I did with the I could also use what I did with the Mephits, where I upscaled the Mephits in Grimskala into gargoyles, but still gave them their Death Burst ability, but they would just have an upscaled version of Death Burst. So it just kind of ended up being a combination of a gargoyle and an ice Mephit with kind of the powers of both. So you could do something like that, but I don't want to do another monster in here. I need to do just... I feel like I've got enough monsters in this upper area. I want to do more like hazards and traps instead of monsters, although certainly the hazards and traps can use monster abilities if they need to, but you want to try to balance that out. Not everything needs to be a fight room to room. And then it'll be another big choice. Hopefully I'll have a heads up on what's going to happen when they reach H22 if they decide to go down the slide, which takes them again to the Remoraz room just on the other side of it, or they can actually continue down, and then we'll have to deal with planning out the right side of the dungeon, which includes H31 through 35. So we'll have some more time to deal with that, but hopefully I've got enough planned for tomorrow's session, and then I believe we'll actually be taking a little bit of a break on Rime. Not a great stopping place, but it is what it is. I'm not, the pacing on D&D is not something I'm totally in control of. It kind of depends on what the players do and how much progress we make. But yeah, it's holiday time, and we got to take a break for the holidays, so we'll be looking at that. Stay tuned for my schedule on the holiday schedule. All right, that will do it for today's stream of Crafting Icewind Dale. If you enjoy the content, please do check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, William, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic, Roleplay, Roll, Christopher, Brian, William, David, Corey, Koa1337, Kyle, Matthew, Big Nut, Greenlee, John, Infernus, Chris. And gold patrons: RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead Lizard, Lion, Sam, Olympus Buds, Jerome, Nathan, Fastica, Tortoise, Scott, Stephanie, Refus, and Carolyn. Thank you all very much for your support. See you all for D&D tomorrow night.